Hey, it's Sam from Sugar Spun Run, and today we are making a sour cream coffee cake. We've done a couple of different coffee cakes around here recently. This one is my current favorite. The sour cream adds a nice depth of flavor to it, adds a nice texture. I think you're really going to love this one. It's a great brunch, a great snack. It's just a great recipe. So before I forget, let's get our oven preheating to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. And I'm going to start by making the ripple layer because anytime I make a coffee cake, I like there to be a nice, distinct cinnamon sugar ripple in the middle. It just looks pretty and it tastes good. You'll need 1/4 cup of granulated sugar and 1½ teaspoons of ground cinnamon, and then salt really helps bring out the flavors. We're going to add a 1/4 teaspoon of table salt as well. We're just going to stir these ingredients together until they're nicely combined. We want a nice even mixture. Okay, we'll set that aside for the time being. Grab yourself a large mixing bowl where we will actually make our sour cream coffee cake batter. So we're only going to be using 1/2 cup of butter for today's recipe. I don't know about you, but that seems like a small amount for me. But because we're adding sour cream and other ingredients, you actually just don't need a whole lot of butter. Don't worry, there will be more butter in this recipe, but for the actual batter, this is all you need. So along with our butter, we're going to add a cup of granulated sugar. We're also going to add 1/3 cup of firmly packed light brown sugar. And today's recipe could be made in a stand mixer if you prefer, but today I'm going to be using my electric hand mixer. You want to come with me? And we're going to cream the ingredients together until they are light and fluffy. If you're using a stand mixer, you'll want to use the paddle attachment for this step. Okay, once everything is well creamed together there, we'll add our eggs. We'll add our eggs. You're going to need 2 large eggs for this recipe, and ideally these should be at room temperature. It's just going to help your batter combine more nicely. Oh, a little shell in there. We don't want that. Nobody wants that. 2. We'll add these to the batter and we'll beat the eggs until they are well incorporated. All right, next up is our star ingredient. Oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing today. Next up is our sour cream. You need 1 cup of full fat sour cream, and we're going to add this right into the batter. And I love using sour cream in so many recipes, like it's so important in cheesecake and it's so important in this coffee cake because it adds so much great flavor here. We're also going to add some vanilla for flavor. It's 1½ teaspoons. We'll stir everything together until my mixer is very ambitious today, until everything is well combined. All right, do a quick stir by hand. I want to make sure the sides and bottom and everything are well incorporated because I want our batter to be nice and uniform. We're actually done with our mixer at this point. All right, and now let's grab a separate bowl for our dry ingredients. We're starting with 1 3/4 cup of all-purpose flour. We'll add 3/4 teaspoon of baking powder, 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda, and where's our salt? We are also going to be adding 3/4 teaspoon of table salt. Whisk everything together until these ingredients are well combined. It's very important that your leavening agents, your baking powder, your baking soda, and I mean your salt too, really, be well distributed. And then let's bring back our wet ingredients. You can add the dry ingredients right on in there. And we're just going to gently fold everything together until we have a batter that is nice and uniform. I don't want to overmix it, which is why I'm not using the mixer, just gently folding everything together. All right, this looks pretty good. I'm gonna make a little bit of room here. Bring my ripple back that we made earlier and grab my baking pan. So you'll need a 9x9 square baking pan for today's recipe. And you could spray yours with baking spray or line it with parchment paper, but I have just greased mine with some butter. I do plan on serving this right in the pan. All right, we are going to pour about half of this batter into the bottom of our pan, which I'm not really great at eyeballing, but it's not important enough that I feel like I need to use a scale and get it exact. But I do want to make sure I can cover the whole bottom of the pan with the batter. All right, and then this ripple is going to go right here, evenly on top. Can you tell I like sugar? And then I'm going to dollop the remaining batter over top. I do recommend dolloping. It's going to make it easier to spread everything in a moment. And then just gently spread this batter over the surface, over that ripple that we just did. Try to do it as evenly as possible. But wait, there's more. We are going to be adding a streusel topping on top of this, so don't take it over to the oven just yet. We're going to slide it out of the way, place it out of the way, and then we're going to make our streusel topping, which is, coffee cake needs a streusel topping. It's just amazing. I'm just going to do this in the same bowl I used to mix my dry ingredients, save myself a dish. And here I'm going to combine 1 1/3 cup of all-purpose flour, 1 cup of firmly packed light brown sugar. Lost a little flour there. 1/4 cup of granulated sugar, 4 1/2 teaspoons of ground cinnamon, which is 1 tablespoon plus 1 1/2 teaspoons. You don't want to use your teaspoon that many times. And just a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, which I think I got rid of my 4th measuring cup, so I'm gonna eyeball that. Don't tell anyone. Now, first thing we're going to do is toss all of these ingredients together. And next, you need some melted butter. You need 10 tablespoons of melted unsalted butter. This shouldn't be super hot or it's gonna melt your sugar. You're going to have a greasy topping. It should not feel warm to the touch. I'm just going to drizzle this over dry ingredients. You know we don't waste butter around here. And then when you make your streusel this way, you have to be careful that you don't overdo it. So we're going to use our fork and we're just going to claw everything together until we have a nice clumpy mixture. My butter was a little warmer than I like, but I gotta wrap this up. My kids need to eat lunch, so hopefully everything works out. Important to note, it wasn't hot. That would have just been a disaster. Now we're clawing and not like mixing, because if we mixed it, we would end up with a paste. We want a nice clumpy streusel. Because if it's not clumpy, it's not streusel. Bring back your coffee cake. And we're gonna get our hands dirty here. Just scatter this evenly over the top. Don't waste any. So good. If you're like, wow, that's a lot of streusel. Yes, you're welcome. We'll do our best to get this evenly distributed. All right, this will go over to our oven now, where it's going to need to bake for about 50 minutes. I like to use a toothpick to test that it's done. The toothpick inserted in the center should come out clean or with a few moist crumbs, but not wet batter. That looks great. Now, ideally, you should really wait for this to cool completely before you dig in. The warmer it is, the more likely it is to seem still a little bit gooey in the center, which is not a huge problem if you ask me. If you're not super patient, just make sure it's cooled at least a bit before you dig into it. I also want to note you can decorate this with a drizzle of vanilla glaze. I'll try to remember to link to that if you want to do it. It's like 2 ingredients or maybe 3. Very easy, adds a nice touch, but this is already so rich it's not mandatory. Okay. This has been cooling a bit, not as long as it should be, but I'm gonna go ahead and dig in. Plus the edges always like cook and cool faster, so you're fine. The house smells amazing after making this. It's like worth making it just for that reason alone. Oh yeah. I'm sorry, I'm so excited. And that is how you make my favorite sour cream coffee cake. If you try this one, let me know what you think. I always love hearing from you. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. All right, best part of the day right here. Oh, it's so tender. It's actually still pretty hot. That is good. Oh my gosh.